I would like to know, Aaron, from a man's perspective, what might be happening internally when a woman dives into some sort of growth-oriented intimacy program and her partner feels hesitant or flat. What's your take on it?
I mean, I completely agree with what she said. I mean, in terms of, there's kind of two general things that I notice, and it's somewhere between anxiety and surprise, especially if there hasn't been a lot of communication around this being a struggle. Then if it's not broke, why fix it? And then that can either land as anxiety, which is like, oh, is there something wrong with me? Or surprise, which is, I didn't know this was going on. For how long has this been going on? What is it exactly that's going on? Which then leads to a lot of these questions. And frankly, whoever is the one that's typically introducing this to the other partner a lot of times may have that reaction. What I've noticed, however, is that a partner who is invited into the possibility of more as an adventure, as a curiosity. It's, hey, things are great. I want to explore this. Or I've actually been struggling with some pain and numbness. It's not your fault. It's just something that's happening with my body. And I believe there's some ways that we address it. Could we turn this into an adventure together? Then it becomes an invitation of possibility, which helps the initial reaction of anxiety or a negative surprise. Instead, it turns into, oh, wait, you're wanting to have some dates with me where we can connect more, have more sex? All right. I mean, a lot of men are like, I'm down for that. But I would say the first one, though, that we actually was most surprising when we're teaching workshops and we're teaching people how to coordinate hips and all this. And in the 990 nights, we'll even recommend sometimes that people reverse roles. And the reason why is because women will notoriously, when they're kind of in the thrusting hip movement position, they start acting like guys, meaning they just start moving really fast. I'm like, whoa, whoa, you need to slow down. And then the second thing they say is, this is really hard.
It's a lot of work.
This is a lot of work. And so the number one thing that women misunderstand a lot of times for the men is that it's not easy. There's a lot of expectations of get it up, keep it up, and not for too long because then you need to come when, things are done and then that's it. And there can be pressure on any one of those three. So
Mm.
that would probably be the number one misconception, I would say. The second one is that guys want to have sex all the time,
It's not true.
especially
That's not
there's
true.
especially as we get older, and let's say if our physical health isn't in the best of condition, then we can have a lot of, and this is the number one thing affecting men, and it's not just men over 40, it's men under 40 as well, is performance anxiety, dealing with the psychological side of things.
Mm. You're
So that would
right.
probably be the
Yeah.
second one.
Yeah, we always think it's so easy. Like it's a natural inborn thing and you're programmed for that. And so it's easy to get it up, it's easy to keep it up. And maybe it's hard to control orgasm. I think that's quite universal. We believe this sort of stereotype, but what you're saying is that it's not always the case and it's just a
Yeah.
stereotype, right?
And then the third one I would say is that men are selfish lovers. A lot of men deeply, deeply want to serve their partner. And this kind of ties back to the first question, which is there's a common dynamic that goes off between men and women. Most men think that they are giving pleasure to their partner. It means that they're doing something for their partner's pleasure. However, most women are actually allowing their partner, which means that they are not doing something, but for their partner's pleasure. Let me explain that again. A lot of times, a guy will think that he's doing something for the partner's pleasure, which would mean that then she's kind of receiving that pleasure. However, as you stated, maybe she's not communicating and something inside her is going, this doesn't really feel so great. So I'm going to allow him to do his thing because he can then enjoy the pleasure. And that creates a big miscommunication. So that way, when finally the person goes, hey, I'm rediscovering my body, let's try something else. It actually hasn't worked for a long time. That's when then you have the anxiety and the surprise that pop in.
Oh my God, you're so right.
When we were children, we breathed very differently. And if you ask any pelvic floor specialist worth their degree, they will tell you that natural breathing is that when you inhale, not only does the diaphragm lower so that your lungs can expand, but also the pelvic floor is gently going to lower. And then as you exhale, it will relax. So this is literally the opposite way that we are breathing. So there's a whole other system that we can access in order to start to train our bodies to experience different states of pleasure. And this has a completely different effect on the anatomy as we understand it as a system of pleasure, not just reproduction. And if you want, of course, I can take you through how to do that breathing practice because it's quite simple.
Okay, let's do it.
You want to do it? All
Let's
right.
try.
So we call it the inhale push. And what you're going to do is first, because we need to untrain ourselves, I'm going to break it down into steps, but then we're going to put it together very smoothly. And sometimes this can take a little bit of time to learn, just like riding a bicycle, because we've trained ourselves to do the opposite for so long. So the very first thing is we'll start off with, for those who don't know where their pelvic floor is, and frankly, this works for guys, there's a whole ton of benefits for them as well. If you were to squeeze your pelvic floor muscles as if you were trying to stop your urinary stream, this is what would be called a typical Kegel, for instance, and then release that. Now, imagine if you wanted to gently increase your urinary stream. You would then gently push out the pelvic floor. If you had a mirror, or if you were to then cup your hand over the vulva, or even just over the perineum, you'd notice that there would be a gentle expansion. If you don't feel that, a lot of times it's because there's a lot of tension there. So this will start to increase over time the ability to have it actually just expand out naturally. Now, the key to this, so that it's not just a reverse Kegel, is connecting this to your entire breathing apparatus as well as then the body mechanics that you have. So the next thing I'd like you to do is let's go ahead and take your hands and just place them up here on your chest. So if you take a deep breath, can you feel how your chest expands into your hand?
Yeah.
And then exhale. If you were to take your hand now and bring it to your lower belly, like between your pubic bone and your belly button, and take a breath and allow it to actually expand out into your hand. It's literally the opposite of what you do for the perfect bikini body.
Hmm.
Do you feel that expand out?
Yeah.
And then relax. Now, this next one's a little bit trickier. We're going to bring that breath even deeper, all the way to the pelvic floor. Gently push out your pelvic floor, and now breathe into your belly, pushing out your hand, but see if you can get that breath to expand the pelvic floor even further.
Hmm. I
And
think
then
if you put your
exhale
hand also on your vulva and see
completely.
Can help. Yeah.
if you
So this
can
would be
feel that.
something you'd take a mirror, for instance, or I mean, some people I'll literally tell them, go ahead, make a little private video for yourself with your mobile phone, watch it, do this, and then notice in a week how much more the
Hmm.
change happens. Placing your hand and feeling that is also going to be a really big help to it. So you get the visual, but also then the biofeedback. And as you do this, the last part is if you were to hold the push, take a deep inhale, and rock your butt backwards,
You're sticking your belly out
your
even.
belly goes forwards.
Hmm.
And do you feel how there's now more space to do that?
Yeah.
And then if you exhale, then you relax. Most of us, though, of course, if we're sitting like this, now you don't have access. If you were to try that, you can't do it as easily. If you remember in Nine Naughty Nights, remember how we're having you do all of those hip movements?
Hmm.
So this same breath directly translates into the bedroom. And what it does internally is it brings all of those deeper erogenous zones towards the entrance. And you literally will be able to then suction on to your partner. And when you relax, bring them in. So this does two things. It one lowers those erogenous zones, but also brings a lot of blood flow to the area. And you need more blood flow to the erectile tissues to have oxygen, which is then going to allow for the nerves to fire off and register pleasure. And the third thing it does, it actually allows you to then be bringing in the partner. Most of us are going to tense on the receiving side because something happens too quickly. This empowers the receiver to become active.